Shalom, family and friends, brothers and sisters, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. You are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You should already know this. And if you do not, now you know. Okay, the topic of discussion, I will be going over this video that I posted up a couple days ago on my channel. As you can see, my channel is Solid Foundation Israelite Academy. Subscribe if you will. And I placed a video up that's dealing with the angels that sin, as you can see, which was 4 days ago. The angels that sin, you see. So this is the video that I post up, and as you can see, concerning the views, it has 45 views. Now, 6 thumbs up, 3 thumbs down. Okay. Now, is this guy that put some comments in the comment section, and he's trying to state his claim that when the Bible speaks of, in Genesis chapter 6, when the Bible speaks of the sons of God, I guess he assumes that the sons of God are angels, which they are not. And so I'm going to go over, I'm trying to cover everything that this guy posted up from the Testament of Judah 2 days ago. You can see he has part 2, and then he has this explanation down here, and all these book, chapter, and verses, and comments that he put. Then he has part 3. And so what? We'll just kind of go into it. As you can see, at the bottom of the Testament of Judah, he says, I presented false doctrine. He said that I presented false doctrine, which is not false doctrine. It's sound doctrine. But sometimes the number 6 can be a 9 to certain people. Yes, the 6 can be a 9 to certain people. It's just according on the viewpoint and where you're standing at. However, like I said, this video is not false doctrine at all. So let's cover some things. All right, and so let's go back up to the top. We'll get into it. Please like, comment, subscribe, brothers and sisters. You can take notes as you will. First and foremost, I want to go here in the Bible. You're going to need a King James Holy Bible, if you will, and also the Apocrypha. So let's go ahead and knock out the part. Let's go ahead and knock out the part these comments that this brother made. So you're going to need a King James Holy Bible indeed. And you may need to grab the Apocrypha and a composition book to take notes. So let's get it. Now, I want to go to 1 Thessalonians 5 and 21. So let's go to 1 Thessalonians 5 and 21. Now, you're going to have to look into your Bible because there would be no Bible display on the screen. Usually I will have a Bible display on the screen, but concerning this lesson, just follow along in your Bible. So that's 2 Thessalonians 5 and 21. And what did it say in 2 Thessalonians 5 and 21, which was written by the Apostle Paul? He says, 2 Thessalonians 5 and 21, he says, prove all things. Prove all things and hold fast that which is good. And so concerning this brother, we're going to prove all things. We're going to prove all things because it looks like he's trying to state his claim. So we're going to prove all things. So let's deal with the first section here. It says part 2. Precepts proving the angels coming into the earth as men. They come and burning like lamps, and then cometh forth lightning, just like when Satan fell, concerning Luke 10 and 18, and his angels, Revelation 12, verses 4 and 9. So let's deal with this. So I'm assuming that this brother is thinking that Satan fell from heaven. Well, let me bust your bubble on that. Satan has not fell from heaven, and Satan never brought 2/3 of the angels with him to earth. That is Christian philosophy, Roman Catholic philosophy. You know what I'm saying? That doctrine right there is within the Catholicism Christian community. Catholics, Christians, Baptists, you know what I'm saying? Pentecostal, all these denominations that stem from out of the Roman Catholic Church, they believe that Satan fell from heaven. We, as the Hebrew Israelites, Jews, we don't believe that. All right? Because the Bible don't say that. So let's deal with Revelation 12, verse 4. Because that's what he put. And I'm not doing this to embarrass this brother. I'm just here to prove all things. Revelation 12 and 4. You can't put book, chapter, and verses up and think I'm not going to cover them. Revelation 12 and 4. Let's get it. So this is the book of Revelation, which is the last book of the Bible. Revelation 12 and 4. Now in Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, it says, "And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth." Now, like I said, you're going to have your Bibles out. Please look over these book chapters and verses with me. We are in Revelation chapter 12, verse 4. Because this brother is claiming that this is talking about the fall of Satan. And it's absolutely not talking about the fall of Satan. We need to contextualize and get the over-entering understanding of this book, chapter, and verse. Now, in Revelation chapter 12, what it speaks about? It speaks about a great wonder in heaven. It also speaks about a woman that's clothed with the sun and the moon. That's Revelation 12 and 1. And so in Revelation 12 and 1, that woman that it's talking about is not an actual woman. That woman is the nation of Israel, which are the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans today. You can look at the precept Jeremiah 6 and 2, and it'll tell you in Jeremiah 6 and 2 that the Most High has likened the daughter of Zion to a delicate woman. He has likened Zion to a delicate woman. So in Revelation 12 and verse 1, that woman is the nation of Israel. And this woman was clothed with the sun and moon under her feet. That represents great wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that was given to the nation of Israel. And it said also in Revelation 12 and 1, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Those 12 stars represents the 12 tribes of Israel, which makes that woman up. Revelation 12 and 2, and she being with child cried. That child is talking about the Messiah, Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. She being with child cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. That's talking about Jacob's trouble. You can see that in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 3. Going on with Revelation 12, verse 3. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now this great red dragon, this is talking about basically the Roman Empire. The great red dragon back then is talking about the Roman Empire. All right, having 7 heads. Those 7 heads is talking about the 7 kingdoms of Esau. All right, which is Greece, Rome, France, Spain, Russia, Great Britain, and wait a minute, it's Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, Great Britain, and Russia, I believe. And those are the 7 kingdoms of the so-called white man, Esau. And then it has 10 horns. The 10 horns represents the European Union, or what you call the ECC, or some may call NATO, the European Union. That's the 10 horns. Going back to the 10 common markets. All right. And so we went over the 7 heads, which is Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany, I believe, Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany minor, and Germany major. I believe. It's been a while. But that's what those 7 heads are. It's just talking about Greece, Rome, Spain, France, Germany minor, and Germany major. Some may say Great Britain. But we know the 7 heads is dealing with the 7 kingdoms of the so-called white man, which is Esau. The 10 horns is dealing with the European Union, NATO. NATO stands for National Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, this is what I want to go over in Revelation 12 and 4, because he claimed Satan failed, which he did not. Revelation 12 and 4. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the ground. So, who is this great red dragon? I told you that great red dragon, it represents the Roman Empire. But if you want to go further back, it represents the Greco-Roman Empire, because we know that the Grecians ruled before the Romans. The Grecians ruled around 333 BC. So it's also talking about not only the Roman Empire, but that great red dragon is talking about also, it's talking about the Roman Greco Empire, the Grecian Empire. And it says, when it says in Revelation 12 and 4, and his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, that's talking about when the Jews went into slavery, dealing with the Hellenization period. All right, talking about basically when King Antiochus IV Epiphanes. King Antiochus IV was the son of King Antiochus III, dealing with the Maccabean revolt, First and Second Maccabees in the Apocryphal books. When you read First and Second Maccabees, it'll tell you that King Antiochus Hellenized the Jews. What does that mean? When it says he took his tail and drew the third part of the stars from heaven. The third part of the stars right here is talking about the Jews. Now, the third part of the nation of Israel is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi concerning Revelation chapter 12 verse 4. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi makes up the southern kingdom of Israel. The southern kingdom of Israel is known as the kingdom of Judah, which makes up Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. That would be the third part of the stars that was drawn down, because that's what happened to the Jews during the Hellenistic period by the hands of King Antiochus IV. And so he took a third part of the stars of heaven. Now, if you thinking that the Israelites is not considered the stars, then we need to go to Genesis 37 and 9. Now, in Genesis 37 and 9, I'm going to show you. So let's go to the Old Testament in Genesis chapter 37, verse 9. And it tells you that the tribes of Israel are likened to stars. So this is Genesis 37 and 9. These stars ain't got a damn thing to do with fallen angels. These stars is talking about the tribes of Israel. And I'm going to prove it. Genesis 37 and 9. So in Genesis 37 and 9, it says, this is talking about Joseph, because Joseph had vivid dreams. He was a dreamer. So in Genesis 37 verse 9, concerning Joseph's dream, it said, and he dreamed yet another dream. And he told his brothers, and he said, behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, this is what Joseph said he saw in his dream. Joseph said, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars. Why did Joseph say 11 stars in Genesis 37 verse 9? Why did Joseph say 11 stars? Because it's quite obvious he made up a tribe. You understand? The tribe of Joseph. The other 11 stars is his brothers. So what is these 11 stars in Genesis chapter 37 verse 9? It's talking about the 11 tribes of Israel, and Joseph made the 12th tribe. So the 11 stars made obeisance to me. Joseph said he had a dream concerning the sun and the moon. The sun represented his father, which was Jacob, and the moon represented his mother. You understand? The moon represented his mother, right? And the 11 stars in Genesis 37 verse 9 represented his 11 brothers. So when the Bible speaks of stars, it's not talking about fallen angels. It's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. Showed you a precept on that. So now let's go back to Revelation 12 and verse 4. And the third part of the stars is talking about the three tribes of the southern kingdom of Israel. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. They was cast down to the earth. They went in captivity and slavery under the hands of King Antiochus IV, dealing with First and Second Maccabees during the Grecian rule. It says the dragon stood before the woman. Now let me deal with this. I got to give you precepts on this. So in Revelation 12 and 4, I'm going to prove that this is not talking about Satan that brought some angels with him to earth. That's bullshit. They ain't talking about that. Let me show you what it's talking about. I already told you. Let me give you a book, chapter, and verse, though. Revelation 12, verse 4, concerning this dragon that took his tail and drove a third part of the stars of heaven. I want you guys to go with me to Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. So let's go to Daniel 8 and 10. And we going to cut whoever the Testament of Judah that's coming on my page talking about I'm presenting false doctrine. No, brother, you presenting false doctrine. And it's about to be dealt with. It's about to be dealt with. So let's go to Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. The Bible says prove all things, brother. That's what we doing. Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. And I'm doing this out of love. Not out of hate, but out of love. Daniel 8, verse 10 as a precept. So let's see what Daniel chapter 8, verse 10 talks about. Now in Daniel 8 and 10, it talks about basically a little horn. So let's go back. Let's back up to Daniel chapter 8, verse 9. Well, let's go back to Daniel chapter 8, verse... Let's start with Daniel 8, verse 8. Therefore, the he-goat waxed very great. Now that he-goat, that goat represents the Grecians, the Grecian Empire. So Daniel's 8 and 8 says, the he-goat, which was the Grecians, waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. So the he-goat represents the Grecian Empire. The horn that was broken on the goat's head, that horn represents Alexander. Alexander the Great was the first Grecian king, and he ruled Greece for 12 years, and he became stricken with sickness, and he died at the age of 33. This is talking about Alexander the Greek, what they call Alexander the Great. In Daniel chapter 8, verse 8, he was known as that broken horn. The goat itself is the Grecian Empire. The horn on the goat is Alexander. So in Daniel chapter 8 and 8, when it says the horn was broken, that's talking about Alexander's death. The horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones. What are these four notable ones? Alexander's generals, which was Cassander that took over Macedonia, Lysimachus took over Asia Minor, Seleucus took over Syria, and Ptolemy took over Egypt. After Alexander died, he parted his kingdom to his four generals. And those are the four notable horns in Daniel's 8 and 8. It also says four notable ones towards the four winds of heaven. It goes on to say in Daniel's 8 and 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn. That little horn that came forth out of those four notable ones, that little horn concerning Daniel's 8 and 9, that's talking about King Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. He is the little horn which waxed exceedingly great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. The pleasant land is talking about Jerusalem. All right, Daniel's 8 and 10, and it waxed great, even to the hosts of heaven. Now, this is what I want to deal with, because here's the precept. Daniel's 8 and 10, it says it waxed great, even to the hosts of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground, and it stomped upon them. Daniel's chapter 8 and verse 10 is not talking about some fallen angels and Satan causing a rebellion and leading some fallen angels to earth. It's not talking about that. Daniel's 8 and 10 is talking about King Antiochus IV that Hellenized the Jews. And these Jews was likened unto the stars. And what he do? He cast them down to the ground and he stomped upon them. You know what that's called? That's called the Hellenization period. All right? That's what's going on, the Hellenization period. So let's see about that. Let's go to 1 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, because we're going to 1 Maccabees in the Apocrypha. So let's go to 1 Maccabees 1 and 1 in the Apocrypha. Proving all things. They ain't got a damn thing to do with Satan causing a rebellion and leading some angels to earth. That's Christian doctrine. That's Roman Catholicism doctrine. We Jews, Israelites, don't believe that. That's bullshit. So let's go to Maccabees 1 and 1. We proving all things. Maccabees 1:1, because it tell you that Antiochus did this to the Jews. Maccabees 1:1 in the Apocrypha. So this is First Maccabees chapter 1. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 1. Watch this. Maccabees in the Apocrypha chapter 1 verse 1. And it happened after Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. He reigned in his stead, the first over Greece. First Maccabees 1 and 2. He made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. Okay, Maccabees chapter 1 verse 3. And he went through the ends of the earth and took spoil of many nations, and so much that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up. First Maccabees chapter 4. And he gathered a mighty strong host, and he ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries to him. He made them pay taxes. And then guess what? First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 5 says, and after these things Alexander felt sick, and he perceived that he should die, because Alexander died of syphilis. So Alexander eventually died. Now, did we not show you that in Daniel chapter 8? Daniel chapter 8 and verse 8 talks about this horn on this goat that was broken. That was when Alexander died. And it talks about how 4 notable ones came up. We went over that. That's Alexander's generals, 4 generals. And then later on, after Alexander's 4 generals, it says another little horn, waxed exceedingly great. That's talking about King Antiochus. And what did that little horn do? It says in Daniel 8 and 10, it says he cast some of the stars to the ground. That little horn is talking about Antiochus, how he Hellenized the Jews. These stars ain't got a damn thing to do with angels. So you are wrong, my man. You are wrong, Testament of Judah. You are wrong. Now, let's go on to see what Antiochus Epiphanes did to the southern kingdom, the Jews, the third part of the stars, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom of Israel. Let's see what he did. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 63. So let's go over here. Matter of fact, yeah. Well, First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 42. And everyone should leave his laws. So Antiochus forced all the Jews to leave their laws, their customs and traditions. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 43. Yeah, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. See that? Many also of the Israelites consented to his religion. So Antiochus forced the Grecian customs on the Jews, and they consented to his new religion, and sacrificed unto idols, and they profaned the Sabbath. First Maccabees chapter 1 verse 44. For the king had sent letters by messengers into Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land. So Antiochus was forcing the Jews to follow Grecian customs, traditions, and manners. And if the Jews didn't do that, he killed them. How we know that? Watch this. Watch this. Let's look at, now let's head over to when you had to profess to be a Grecian, because if you didn't, if you was a Jew and you didn't profess to be a Grecian, and if you even if you said you was a Jew, Antiochus will have you killed. Watch this. I'm gonna show you. Now let's skip over to, we are still in the Apocrypha. We are still in the Apocrypha. Now watch this. This is 2 Maccabees in the Apocrypha, chapter 4, verse 10. It says, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forthwith brought his own nation to Greek fashions. See that? See that? So what I'm saying is, the Jews during that time, Antiochus was ruling during 333 BC, during the Grecian Empire, they was Hellenized to keep Grecian customs. Now watch this. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 6 in the Apocrypha. Neither was it lawful for any man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be called a Jew. So in 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 2, it says when the Grecians was ruling, they did not allow the Jews to profess themselves to be called Jews. They had to be called Greeks. If you profess yourself to be a Jew or Israelite during the time of Antiochus, you would die. So what did he do? He Hellenized the Jews. He cast a third of the stars down to the earth. And those third of the stars is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Those three tribes was heavily Hellenized by Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes. And that is that horn that waxed great. And that's the horn that cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground and stomped upon them, concerning Daniel chapter 8, verse 10. Ain't got a damn thing to do with the fall of Satan and some angels. You've been had, you've been duped again, my man. Testament of Judah. All right, so we dealt with that. So now we can go back to Revelation chapter 12. We can go back to Revelation chapter 12 and see if you study the Old Testament, the New Testament is no problem for you. But if you don't study the Old Testament, you're not going to understand the New Testament. And so now it's no problem to us when we go back to Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, and it speaks about a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns. And then it goes on to say, he took his tail and he cast the third part of stars from heaven. We know that who did it first. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, when he Hellenized the Jews. The third part, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, was Hellenized by Antiochus. And then also followed up by King Herod. King Herod also was that dragon, because it says in Revelation chapter 12, verse 4, it said the dragon also, it says, stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And who did that? Matthew 2 and 13, King Herod. So let's go to Matthew 2 and 13. Let's get understanding. Matthew 2 and 13. It said the dragon stood before the woman. So who was this dragon? Was it Satan? Hell no. Matthew 2 and 13. Let's see. I told you the dragon went from Antiochus to King Herod. It went from the Grecian Empire to the Roman Empire. Matthew 2 and 13. Ain't got a damn thing to do with Satan. Satan is not the dragon. You understand? Matthew 2 and 13. This is Matthew 2 and 13. And when they were departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod, King Herod, which was an Edomite, all right, okay, which married a Hasmonean. King Herod was an Edomite, a so-called white man. It says, for Herod would seek the young child to destroy him. That's Matthew chapter 2, verse 13. So Herod was trying to destroy Christ at a very young age. And this angel told Joseph to take his child and his family and depart into Egypt until Herod be dead. So Herod was trying to kill Christ at a very young age. So let's go back to Revelation 12 and 4. And so we know that this dragon went from being Antiochus the fourth, that Hellenized the Jews, down to King Herod, dealing with the Roman Empire. What did King Herod want to do? Try to destroy Christ. So that's also that dragon in Revelation 12, verse 4, that stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered to devour her child. Talking about King Herod. This ain't got a damn thing to do with Satan and fallen angels. So we covered Revelations chapter 12, verses 4. He also has, Testament of Judah also has Revelation chapter 12, verse 9. So let's look at Revelation 12 and 9, get understanding of that. Now, in Revelation 12 and 9, that's futuristic prophecy. That hasn't happened yet. Revelation 12 and 9 talks about the great dragon that was cast out. The great dragon that was cast out that's dealing with Esau once again. We should know that now. That dragon is dealing with Esau, because even during the time of the Grecian Empire, King Antiochus was an Edomite. And that Edomite cast Benjamin, Judah, and Levi down into servitude and slavery. And that was a metaphor saying the dragon that took his tail and drug a third part of the stars to the earth. That was Antiochus, which Hellenized the Jews. And then it went from Antiochus to King Herod, trying to kill Christ at a very young age. And in Revelation 12 and 9, this is still talking about this great dragon that was cast out. See, Revelation 12 and 9 is futuristic prophecy. It hasn't happened yet, but it will soon happen. What will happen to that great dragon? What will happen to the so-called white man, the Edomites that the Bible speaks of? What will happen to these Caucasians? It says they will be cast out of they will be cast out of their heaven. They will be cast out of their position of power. They will be cast out of their rulership. They will no longer reign, and they will no longer reign over the Israelites. That great dragon will be cast out, that old serpent called the devil, the deceiver, and also Satan, which means the adversary, which deceived the whole world. The so-called white man has deceived the whole world through what? Politics. He has deceived the whole world through what? Religion, denomination, falsehood, deceit. That's the so-called white man. Primarily, he deceived the whole world with Christianity. You understand? Along with the false white Jesus. Things of that nature. This so-called white man, this devil, the Edomite that the Bible speaks of, has damn near deceived the whole world. But guess what? He will soon be cast out of heaven. He will be cast out his rulership, his position, authority, and power. He was cast out. He will be cast out into the earth, and his angels will be cast out with him. Now, these angels here in Revelation 12 and 9 are not talking about celestial beings. These are talking about the people that uphold the so-called white man's kingdom, the people that help support this so-called white man. Like, you have these entertainers, these movie actors, these actresses, you understand, that sell they have sold their souls for fortune and fame. You understand? A perfect representation of the devil's angels is these rock stars, movie entertainers, these rap stars. You understand? The people that's helped pushing this so-called white man kingdom. You know what I'm saying? The devil's angels, also the ones that tell lies on a daily basis in terms of broadcasting these news stations, MSNBC, NBC, CBS News. You know what I'm saying? The people that help work for this devil, the people that push out this misinformation through the people that push out this misinformation through radio, TV, entertainment, television. All these people that's working for them, that have sold their souls in terms of Hollywood. These are known as his angels. The devil's angels is the people that works for him and helps uphold his empire. They working for the so-called white man. Denzel Washington, Will Smith. You understand? All these actors. You know what I'm saying? George Clooney. You see what I'm saying? Jim Carrey. All these actors, they working for him. They would be classified as the devil's angels. The people that sold their soul to the white man. You gonna go down when the Most High destroys his kingdom. All you going down with him that helped support him and sold your soul to him. Want to throw up the Illuminati, the 666, and all this bullshit. You going down with the white man. That's what it's talking about. Revelation 12 and 9, futuristic prophecy that the so-called white man that's personified as the dragon. It's because it says a red dragon. It says a red dragon. Revelation 12 speaks of a red dragon. Go to Genesis 25:25 in the Old Testament, and it'll tell you who came out red and hairy all over. It's talking about Esau, the oldest brother of Jacob. He came out red and hairy all over concerning Genesis 25:25. It's talking about Esau, the red man. He's likened it to the great red dragon, and he will be cast out of his heaven soon to come. That's what Revelation 12 and 9 talks about. Luke chapter 10, verse 18, because Testament of Judah posted this too. Luke 10 and 18, so let's deal with that. Luke 10 and 18. Luke 10 and 18. This is Luke 10 and 18. Believe me or not, it's on you. I'm giving you the full truth concerning the scriptures. Luke 10 and 18. This is what the Messiah said. And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. So I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Now, the reason why the Messiah stated that in Luke 10 and 18, the reason the Messiah stated that, because the Messiah the New Testament wasn't written in the Messiah's time. The Messiah, he had access to the Tanakh, which is known as the Old Testament, and also the Apocrypha, the 14 books. So in the Messiah's time, he studied the Tanakh, which is known as the Old Testament and also the Apocrypha. What did it tell you in the Tanakh concerning Isaiah 14:12? You don't think the Messiah studied the scroll of Isaiah? The Messiah studied the scroll of Isaiah. What did it tell you in Isaiah 14:12? Let's go to Isaiah 14:12 and we'll go back to Luke 10 and 18. So why did the Messiah say he beheld Satan fall like lightning? Because he studied Isaiah. He studied the scroll of Isaiah, Isaiah 14:12. So let's take a look at that. I'm not playing no games, man. I'm not playing any game. You better have it correct when you step to me. Isaiah 14:12. Because you will get embarrassed, man. You understand? So before you start posting stuff up like this, brother, you need to go back and study these scriptures. Let's see what Isaiah 14:12 say. Isaiah 14:12. Isaiah 14, the whole chapter of Isaiah 14 is futuristic. It hasn't happened yet. The whole entire chapter of Isaiah is talking about the restoration of Israel, how they will be restored in the kingdom of heaven to come. That whole entire chapter has not been fulfilled yet. Isaiah 14:12. What does it say? How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? Art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? This is talking about the so-called white man here. This ain't got nothing to do with Satan falling from heaven along with some angels. Bullshit again. Christianity concepts again. Roman Catholicism concepts again. Ain't got nothing to do with Satan. See, we can't bring these Christian traits into this truth. If you're going to be a Hebrew Israelite, you got to go 100 with it. You can't bring this Christian shit and Roman Catholicism in with this truth because it's not going to work. Revelation 14:12 is talking about the Luciferians. Who are the Luciferians? The Luciferians are what you call the Illuminati. Do you not know what the word Lucifer means? Lucifer in the Hebrew, it means Hallel, which means, it means the shining one. That's what it means, Hallel. Lucifer in the Hebrew, that's exactly what it means. Lucifer, let's get that Hebrew concordance number. Hebrew concordance 1966, Hallel or Hallel. And it means light barrier. That's what it means. Who bears light to the nations? Who is known as the holders of the light? The international banking families. That's why you see that all-seeing eye with that light illuminating around it on the back of the dollar bill. That's why every time you see that all-seeing eye in that capstone and that triangle, it has that illumination coming from within it, because these 13 international banking families, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Lee family, the Kennan family, the Oppenheimers, the Bilderbergs, the DuPonts, you understand, the interconnected families, the McDonald family, the McDonald bloodline, all these international banksters, these people are known as light barriers. Why you think they constructed the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor? Because it bears light to the nations. Get a grip, man. The Luciferians is known as the enlightened ones, the holders of the light. That's what Lucifer means. Light barrier. Now you ask yourself, who are known as the holders of the light? That runs the people, controls the industries, the radio stations, controls that's over the NBA, NFL, and all this type of stuff. Who runs that? The banksters, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. That's what it's talking about. The light barriers. All right. So now it says in Isaiah 14:12, this hasn't happened yet because it's futuristic prophecy. In Isaiah 14:12, it talks about also how Lucifer, which is these international banksters that got all the power, that print the money, that runs the government, you understand, that's over the Federal Reserve, you understand, how they will be stripped down and how they will be taken from their power when Israel is restored fully as a nation. How the so-called white man, the Luciferians, these banksters, how they will fall from heaven, how they will fall from their position of power, and how they will be cut down to the ground that weaken the nations. How did they weaken the nations? Through democracy. That's how they weaken the nations. Democracy. That's how they weaken the nations. Revelation 14:12. Futuristic prophecy hasn't even happened yet. So let's go back to Luke 10 and 18. When the Messiah made that statement in Luke 10 and 18, he was actually quoting Isaiah 14 and 12, how the so-called white man would eventually lose his power structure and go down. So let's go back to Luke 10 and 18. Luke 10 and 18. All right? And you ain't got to believe me. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm giving you the truth. You can reject it or you can accept it. I'm not going to force it on. I'm not going to make you. I don't got time for the bullshit. I don't have time, man. We going to come 100 or not. Luke 10 and 18. Luke 10 and 18. The Messiah says, Yahushua, who they call Jesus Christ, he says, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Because where was that recorded? In Isaiah 14:12. Even the Messiah said, sooner or later, the so-called white man will lose his power structure. Because who was ruling during the time of Christ? The Roman Empire was ruling during the time of Christ. You understand? The Roman Empire failed in the year 193 AD. And it was revived in 1453, dealing with the Renaissance period. So Satan did fall from heaven, but he was revived. You get what I'm saying? Come on, man. You understand? So I cover all that first part. And then he talks about Ezekiel 1 and 13. Probably not going to be able to go over this because he typed in a lot. So Luke 1 and 13. I'm trying to just cover the main part. Not Luke 1 and 13. I'm sorry. Ezekiel 1 and 13. Now, Ezekiel 1 and 13, it talks about the actual celestial beings. The supernatural beings. Luke 1 and 13. I mean, I don't know why I keep saying Luke, but Ezekiel 1 and 13, it says, as for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. And it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Ezekiel 1 and 14. And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. You see? And so this is talking about celestial beings. Now, if you look at the video, like I said, you have to look at my video. You look at this. If you look at this video here, it talks about how when you see angels in the Bible, it's not just talking about celestial beings. Sometimes angels can be referred to the Israelite, the nation of Israel, the prophets, you know, the 12 apostles. Sometimes angels can be referred to as messengers, not just celestial beings. So you got to know in book, chapter, and verses, you got to know in certain book, chapter, and verses where it's talking about angels being celestial beings and angels being physical people, you know, in terms of Israelites. Right here in Ezekiel chapter 1, that's talking about celestial creation. So we don't have no problem with that. Revelation 8 and 10. So let's deal with that. Revelation 8 and 10. I'm trying to cover all these chapters this brother posted up. Revelation 8 and 10. So let's deal with that. I'm trying to move quick as possible. Okay, he says in Revelation 8 and 10. All right, let's deal with that. Revelation 8 and 10. And the third angel sounded. And the third angel, this is Revelation 8 and 10. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the waters. So let's deal with this. Now, that guys, like I said, man, you got to study. Okay. So what is that star that fell from heaven? First and foremost, Revelation 8 and 10 is dealing with Revelation 8 and 10 is dealing with, let me be direct on this, 16:19. Revelation 8 and 10 is dealing with the transatlantic slave trade. That's what it's dealing with. This transatlantic slave trade. Revelation 8 and 10, it says, and the third angel sounded. It says, there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of the waters. Okay. Revelation 8 and 10. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. Now, like I said, this is a long explanation. So I'm going to try to explain this. Like I said, I'm going to try to explain it. Now, what's going on in Revelation chapter 8 is talking about the seventh seal, which the trumpets was to follow. And so, let me see, can I cover this right quick? Revelation chapter 8 verse 2 speaks about 7 angels. Now, those angels right there are celestial beings. Like, really can't argue with that. That's celestial beings. Revelation 8 verse 6, 7 angels which had 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Okay, that's talking about celestial beings. There, can't argue with that. Revelation 8 and 6 also talking about 70 AD. 70 AD, because when Revelation 8 verse 7 says, the first angel sounded, there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the grass was burnt up. That's talking about 70 AD, when Jerusalem was ablaze, when the Romans burnt down Jerusalem in 70 AD, took the Jews as slaves into Rome. You know what I'm saying? It just labeled the Israelites here in Revelation 8 verse 7 as third part of the trees. And we know the third part of Israel was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Third part of the trees was the southern nation of Israel, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, that's what it's talking about, 70 AD. And then Revelation 8 verse 8, the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain, burning with fire, was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. That's talking about 1492 to 1604. Talking about the Renaissance. 1492 all the way to 1604. That's talking about the Renaissance. All right. It says in Revelation 8 and 8, there was a great mountain burning with fire that was cast into the sea. That mountain, a mountain represents a nation of people. So that's talking about like the governmental kingdom, basically. Dealing with from 1492 to 1604. It's going from that great mountain burning with fire that was cast into the sea. That's talking about, it's giving historical timelines going back to the Spanish Navy, to the conquistadors, and then the third part of the sea became blood. That's talking about the sea. Is talking about Israel. The third part of the sea that became blood. Talking about Israel. How it goes from historical timeline to basically to the conquistadors up to the Spanish Navy. Like the manifest destiny, how the Northern Kingdom was taken over by the Inquisition. So that was like a third part of the sea, that became blood. The third part of the creatures which were in the sea had life and died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. That's talking about the Spanish Navy dealing with the naval forces, and then it leads up into 1619, and then it goes on 1619, transatlantic slave trade, Revelation 8 and 10. Then, like I said, man, it goes all the way down Revelation 8 and 11. The name of the star is called Wormwood. Wormwood. That's talking about slavery. Third part of the waters became wormwood, Many men died of the water because they were made bitter. That's talking about slavery. All right. Revelation 8 and 12, a fourth angel sounded. That's a celestial created. That's a celestial being. The fourth angel sounded. The third part of the sun was smitten. That's talking about when the Most High stripped the nation of Israel from their knowledge, and we became stupid and sottish. So our knowledge was stripped from us. Revelation 8 and 12. That's talking about our knowledge was stripped away from us. The sun was smitten. Sun represents intellect. Sun represents enlightenment that was taken from us. Third part of the moon, third part of the stars. It was dark, and that's knowledge being taken away from us. And so I kind of covered it, man. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to get too far into it because I got a lot of stuff to go over. But Revelation 8 and 10, man, you know what I'm saying? The overall, what I'm trying to cut to the chase, Revelation 8 and 10, that angel is talking about a celestial being. Can't argue with that. All right. Jude 1 and 6. He said Jude 1 and 6. Wait a minute. I don't want to get that. He says Jude 1 and 6. Let's deal with this. Wait a minute. Let's go back into it. The angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation. That was talking about Israel. These angels in Jude 1 and 6 is talking about Israel, Israelites, which kept not their first estate, left their own habitation. Israel left their own habitation when they started intermingling with other nations, because the Most High told Israel not to intermingle their holy seed. He told the Israelite man not to marry foreigners, not to marry strange wives. See what I'm saying? That goes kind of back to Revelation. That goes back to Genesis chapter 6 when it said the sons of God. It said the sons of God took the daughters of man. That's talking about Israelites. That's talking about Israelites in terms of interracial marriage. The Israelites were not supposed to mingle their holy seed among Gentile nations. In Genesis chapter 6, and the sons of God. In Genesis chapter 6, it said sons of God. It didn't say angels. So in Genesis chapter 6, the sons of God were the Israelites before they received the name Israel. They took the daughters of man. What did they? They took heathen women in terms of interracial marriage and mingled their holy seed among the heathen, which was not supposed to be done. That's what it talks about. And they buried mighty man of renown. These were not talking about giants and statues. They were talking about man with great skill. You know what I'm saying? Not giants in stature. These men was exceptional. These men had great skill. They was known as the Nephilim. They was giants, but not in stature. They was giants in they was exceptional in their war tactics and skills. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, just browsing through it, man. He got a lot of stuff right here, man. Not gonna be able to cover all this stuff, man. Hebrews 13:2, it says, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unaware." Yeah, because Hebrews 13:2, that's talking about physical people. You know what I'm saying? There are angels in terms of messenger, angelos. You see what I'm saying? That third part of stars, we went over that. I wanted to go over this guy really was bothered by this video. He has so much inscription down here. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go over. He said something about Job, and I wanted to close that out. After I go over that, he said something about Job, the morning stars that sang for joy, or something like that. I wanted to go over that in Job. Let's see. Jude. Okay, well, Job. I'm trying to see where it's at, man. Job, morning star. We can get that because I can't remember where he put that at. But it was talking about he was trying to state his claim in the book of Job. Talking about the morning star saying for Job. I get that right quick. So I'm on my way to the book of Job. I'm not go over that. Not nothing really difficult. I'm talking about the morning stars. That song for joy. Then I close the video out, man. Where is that? What is that in Job? Go over it right quick. All right, this is Job 38 chapter. Now this is talking about how the Most High, he created the elements, the things that that is around us, nature. You know what I'm saying? And he was just questioning Job because Job was upset, and the Most High challenged Job to these questions. You know what I'm saying? And this is Job 38 verse 1. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkened counsel by wounds? By words without knowledge. Job 38 verse 3. Gird up now your loins like a man, for I will demand of you and answer thou me. Job 38 verse 4. Where was thou when I laid the foundation of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. Genesis 38 verse 5. Who have laid the measures thereof, if thy know, or who have stretched the line upon it? Genesis 38 6. Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, or who laid the cornerstone thereof? Now, this is Job 30 and 7, what I want to cover. This is the part. Job 38 verse 7. Job 38 verse 7. When the morning stars sang for joy. So the Most High was telling Job, where was you at when I created, basically the morning stars that sung together and all the sons of God that shouted for joy? This is not talking about angels here. This is talking about the actual stars, balls of gas. This is talking about the actual stars, the gaseous stars that was created. Basically the luminaries, the sun, moon, stars, they praised the Most High and shouted for joy by doing what? By shining their light. You understand? Each and every day the sun shines, the moon shines, the star shines at night. When they shine and when they give illumination, this is how they sing together. And this is how they shout for joy, by giving their illumination. This ain't talking about angels here, celestial beings. It's talking about the actual sun, moon, and stars that gives off their light. And this is a metaphor. They praise the Most High. They shout for joy by giving off their light. Now watch this in the New Testament. This is James 1 and 17. James 1 and 17. All right, watch this. James chapter 1 verse 17, New Testament. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and coming down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. So right there in James chapter 1 verse 17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and come down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. You see, and so the Most High, he is known as the Father of lights because he created the luminaries, the sun, moon, the stars. Now, getting back to Job 38 verse 7, it says, when the sons of God shouted for joy, those sons of God is the actual sun, moon, and stars. How do they shout for joy? By shining their lights. This is Psalms 148 verse 3, and I'm out. Psalms 148 verse 3. Psalms 148 verse 3, last verse. Psalms 148 verse 3, man. Psalms 148 verse 3. And it reads, praise ye him. Psalms 148 verse 3. Praise ye him. Sun and moon, praise him, all ye stars of light. Now, how in the hell the sun, moon, and stars supposed to praise the Most High? Do they praise him like we praise him? Hell no. So what the sun, moon, and stars do? They shout for joy by giving off their light, shining bright in the firmaments above. So I hope you got over and entering understanding on what I said. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to agree with everything, but I hope I hit some points, to spark something within my brother from Testament of Judah, man. Okay? We're not going to be on the same page. We always going to have disagreements. But if you can't see something that I said according to these book, chapter, and verses after this, I don't know what to tell you, my brother. Peace and blessings be upon you. I hope you find, the over-entering understanding of things. And I don't know it all myself, my brother. I'm still learning. But hopefully I share something that you can share with others, man. Shalom.